This is the Lichtman Live post show. We're back, baby. Trump's back, and the Lichtman Live post show is back. I'm more excited about the post show being back than Trump being back, if I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm going to be 100% transparent with you, I am not excited for Trump being back. If you've watched my show before, that's probably not a big surprise for you. If you know who I am, if you know who my dad is, probably not a big surprise to you. But yes, the Lichtman Live post show is back. So there is a silver lining in all this. Trump might have been inaugurated yesterday, but hey, the post show is back, baby. This is where the real chill session happens. This is where the real homies collide, is in the post show. I think a really good episode on Lichtman Live. Obviously, a lot to talk about. Again, we could have probably talked about just the executive orders for 2 hours themselves. Again, let's see. Oops. Let me get, this up. Sorry, I got to redo some of my stuff here. Video capture device. Too big. Yeah, so this is, I was talking about during my dad's stream, the WhiteHouse.gov presidential actions page. He just made one about aviation today. Let's see. Keeping Americans safe in aviation. Every day, the Federal Aviation Administration within the U.S. Department of Transportation oversees, et cetera, et cetera. During the prior administration, however, the FAA betrayed its mission by evaluating. You know what? I'm going to skip this one. If you know, you know. I'm just not going to comment on it. I'm going to skip that one. But that's a new one. I didn't realize that was out. This page has every single executive action, the date, and there are 5 whole pages of it since yesterday. So this is a good resource if you're interested in just reading the executive actions for yourself. Also, this article is really good too. It breaks down his executive actions into sort of categories: federal workforce, immigration and the border, gender, diversity, equity and inclusion, tariffs and trade, energy and the environment, TikTok ban, and then other. And so it goes through all these categories and directly links you to the executive order on, for say, the asylum bar. Here it is, guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion. Invasion. So I thought this was also a really good resource for people who want to learn more about the executive actions. All right. So what's up, people? Michelle Hernandez says that, quote, "We are still in shock about the Trump win." Yeah, I think it hit me. It's interesting. I think it hit me yesterday that, like, oh, Trump is the president. You know what I mean? I wish your dad could go an hour earlier so your dad could talk longer. Unfortunately, I still have a job. So my job doesn't end until when we start, essentially. So that's as early as we can do right now. Sammy, did you ever think of doing a monthly recap show with you and your dad to cover month events for, say, 2 hours? I didn't. That's an interesting idea. Do you think AOC could become the next president by 2028? I think it's possible. I think it's possible. I guess that's the best way to put it. I think she is very charismatic. She's very liked by the people she's liked by. On the other side of things, she's very hated by the people that she's hated by. She's still just a House member, which is a pretty big leap to go from a House member to a president. But I think it's certainly possible. Can I comment on Elon Musk Hitler salute? I commented on this on the Lichtman Live. It was really weird. It was really neurotic and but I don't think he was giving him the Nazi salute. I think, again, in the context of what he was saying, he was talking about from the bottom of his heart. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, not because I like him or because I support him. I'm just trying to look at it as objectively as possible. The Kegi says, are you kidding? AOC would give 2028 to the Republicans. Maybe so. Dems' only chance is Andy Beshear. Only chance, guys. NYC Mayor Eric Adams just was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. He's all in on mass deportations. That's crazy. Yeah. This mass deportation stuff, all these immigration executive orders are scary as hell. There's no doubt about it. They're really scary, and I don't know how they're going to play out. What do you think about Matthew McConaughey as an outsider populist Democratic candidate? I don't know anything about his politics, so I can't really say much about him as a political leader. Sam, I'm sorry for your loss on the Ravens. The turnovers were the biggest. Dude, I literally can't talk about the Ravens or I'll cry, legitimately. I can't watch football. Like, you don't understand. Like, the moment. So, I forgot which year Lamar was drafted. Let's see. What year was it? Lamar Jackson. What year was he drafted? 2018. In 2018, I was in a group chat with my friends, and I said to them, the day of the draft, I had watched Lamar in college. I was a big fan of his. The day of the draft, my friend literally texted me in the group chat, who do you want the Ravens to take? Before the draft even started. And I said, Lamar Jackson. And they picked him. So I've been in this guy's corner, 2018, for 6 years now, fighting for this guy, defending this guy. I really, truly thought this was the Ravens' year. Really, truly. 6 years of waiting. I thought this is the year. And it all came crumbling down. I can't talk about it. Congrats to the Eagles, T-Girl. Congrats to all my fellow DC homies. I'm a Ravens fan, not a Commanders fan, but I'm happy for the Commanders. I'm happy for my friends who are Commanders fans. Was there a thing of your parents getting arrested? Yes. My parents got arrested when my dad was running for Senate in 2006 because they were trying to enter a debate where my dad was not invited, and they got charged with like trespassing or something. Should we congratulate the Chiefs for buying the refs? Dude, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl again, we're all just gonna all fucking, nobody wants that. Let's just say that. Nobody wants that. If I had to pick the Super Bowl that I want, it would be not Eagles, definitely not Eagles. It would be Commanders, Bills. If we get that, look, maybe I won't be so sad. If we get Eagles, Chiefs, I'm never watching football again. Never. That's a joke. Michael Nightwest says, I'm happy with the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. Look, I like Taylor Swift, but she ain't going to, change my NFL fandom, that's for sure. Has this made you want to enter politics yourself at a local and state level? I've talked about this before. I just don't think I am made for politics. I prefer doing stuff like this, commentary and critical analysis of things. I don't really see myself as a politician. It certainly does light a fire under me in some ways because I just feel like, especially just watching these just a wave of executive orders, like most of which I just disagree with so wholeheartedly, it lights a fire under my ass for sure. I don't know if it lights a fire under my ass to become a politician, but yeah. Holy T Pile says, I feel like wanting to be president by the 2050s. Do it. Go for it. Why not? Thoughts on the TikTok ban? Oh my goodness gracious. The TikTok ban. What a shit show. So obviously Trump was the first person, I don't know about the first person, but was Trump in 2020 pushed for a TikTok ban. Then his allies in Congress went forward with that TikTok ban. Then his Supreme Court justices finalized that TikTok ban. And then TikTok was banned. And then Trump, quote unquote, saved it after being the leader of banning it. I mean, talk about gaslighting the American people, right? Talk about, shooting them in the back and, comforting them in the front. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a total shit show. I don't really think it should have been banned at first. I think I've said this before. I think if the U.S. government is worried about data and security, they should be making overarching laws and regulations on social media, because it's not just TikTok who mines our data. It's also Meta. It's also Google. So it's just all just a total shit show. It's all bullshit, If you're worried about TikTok, make laws protecting our data. That's what I think. I don't know if it'll be saved in the long run. I think the Trump protection is only like 90 days right now. I also don't understand all of this legally and what exactly happened. Maybe other people know. TM says TikTok CEO playing politics too. I agree, totally playing politics. But if a Supreme Court ruling says TikTok is banned in this country, then how can a president just say it's not, just verbally? He wasn't even president. He had no actual powers when this all happened, right? When people opened their phones and it said TikTok is banned, or whatever it said, you can't use TikTok. And then the next day when it said, oh, you can because of President Trump, Trump wasn't even president. So I don't even understand how legally that all happened, or how legally that all makes sense. Because you've got a Supreme Court ruling, which is the law of the land, right? A president can't just say, or even through executive action, I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Can just say, no, that Supreme Court ruling is delayed or is not valid. And again, he wasn't even president when he said that. When they reopened TikTok, he wasn't even president. So I don't understand it. It's legally, it makes no sense to me. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have in-depth knowledge about Supreme Court law and executive action, and certainly social media law, but it doesn't make any sense to me how that all transpired. Steve S. says, do you know of any significant policies these tech billionaires want, or do they just want a seat at the table type thing? I'm trying to think. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure there are. Concrete things they want. It's probably a bit of both. There are some concrete things they want, and they also want a seat at the table. What if the U.S. benefits greatly from Trump's executive orders? Can you be more specific? I mean, that's a pretty general statement. Which ones are you referring to? Some of these, I don't know how you, like, for example, ending birthright citizenship. How would you quantize or make an analysis of how that would improve our country? I mean, it would take, decades for the results of that to bear any fruit anyways, right? T-Girl says, oligarchy in full effect. Yes, girl, I hear you. Yes, girl, I hear you. I find it hard to believe that Trump will succeed in deporting all 11 million undocumented immigrants, but I could see deportations increasing significantly. Right, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying every single legal immigrant is going to be deported, but in the process of doing that, a lot are, and a lot of sketchy shit's going to happen. Ain't no doubt. World Cup says, dude, these tech billionaires want to cash the county to bail it out again and get a huge payoff. I'm not sure what that means. Why is Trump so bad with Canada? They are an important ally. Well, if you know anything about Trump, he does not care about traditional American allies. So in that sense, I don't think he gives an F. What executive orders do you think are possibly coming next? That's a good question. I don't know, because I know historically, there was a good NPR article about this. Historically, most of the executive orders come within like the first month. Let me see if I can find this article. He did a lot, right? NPR executive orders. Maybe this is it. They had a nice graph which showed how executive orders sort of take place over time and how many Trump did in the first day, how many others have done in the first day, and how many others have done. I might not gonna be able to find it, of course, right? NPR Trump number of executive orders. Maybe this is it. Is this the one I just clicked? Yes, I think it is. I swear they had a really here. Is this it? They had a really nice graph. Where's the graph? Let me see if it's in images. No. Is this it? First 100 days in office. So this is based off of Biden revoking him. So he did a bunch in the first 131 revoking. Okay, I don't know. Sorry, I just wanted to find that graph. I couldn't find it. What other stuff is he gonna do? I think I don't know. I can't answer that. More of things in the similar vein. I think things about immigration, border, energy, stuff like that. Tashid Khan says, the TikTok message showed me that tech billionaires were generally afraid that the U.S. would actually embrace GDPR. The Democrats under Biden's term made meaningful changes. The Republicans are bout. How was my visit with my parents? It was pretty good. You know, the issue was like literally like the 2 days before my mom got here and the day before my dad got here. You know, my dad got here a day before my mom got here, 2 days before the fires broke out, and then we were just kind of like crap, you know. But it was nice spending time with them for sure. But unfortunately, the whole fire situation made the first week they were here a little stressful. Do you think Trump is like Hitler in the sense that Hitler wanted Austria and Hungary just like Trump wants Greenland, Canada, and Panama, and it can start a world war? I don't like comparing Trump to Hitler, generally speaking. I mean, expansionism has been part of many leaders. I don't think it's just a Hitler thing, so I think that's maybe a kind of a comparison on faulty ground, unsteady ground. Did you watch Bishop Marion Budd inauguration prior to Trump and Vance to have mercy? They sat there in the National Cathedral stone faced. No, I didn't see that, but I actually had a friend of mine who posted that the opening prayer was really good, but I haven't checked it out yet. But that's interesting that he preached mercy and Trump and Vance sat there stone faced. The only thing I really watched from the inauguration was Trump's inauguration speech, which I thought the beginning, it was crazy how much he was attacking the Biden administration. I mean, I know Trump does it, but even I was taken aback. I was like, damn, he's really going in on them. And then he essentially just went through all of these policy executive actions that he was about to do. And a lot of them I found really sick, you know, when he announced that he was only going to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. He got a standing ovation. It's like, come on, guys. you know, all the Republicans stand up in the rotunda. It's like, and like, you know, when he's talking about drill, baby drill, and JD Vance is behind him with this giant grin, clapping his hands. It's like, that could kill people. That could literally kill people, and JD Vance is sitting there smiling about it. It's just kind of sickening. And I thought the end was pretty good. You know, he had some inspiring moments, some interesting tidbits of American history. I think if you're a Trump fan, you probably think it was great. If you're not a Trump fan, you probably thought it was horrific. Kind of typical of this whole Trump time. The Lankin-Riley Act would allow ICE to detain undocumented immigrants who have only been accused of crimes like shoplifting and theft. It violates due process. Call your representatives, please. That's from Laura Duarte. Christina Chow says, I didn't watch any of the inauguration. I refused. I didn't watch any of the inauguration live. I watched the speech on YouTube after the fact. So that whole, like, don't give him TV ratings. I didn't, guys. Okay, I didn't give him any TV ratings. What did you think of Melania's hat? Looked like she was trying to keep Donald Trump out of her face. Look, I think people probably get on Melania too much about her fashion. I kind of like the hat. I think she kind of looked cool in it. I mean, it was maybe a little bit cold, but she's kind of a cold person, generally speaking. So I don't know. Jim Sommer says, we all know there's only male and female. Give me a break, at least to be honest, and admit you're saying there's more, just to not upset people. If we're talking about genders, there are more than two genders. If we're talking about sexes, there are male and female, and then there are like people with combination of both genitalia. So if you want to get technical, that's where we'll get. Christina says, I'd rather watch paint dry on the wall. Well, it is kind of like my job to comment on these things, so I felt like I had to at least watch his inauguration speech, right? Trump accidentally, in his order for two genders, said the only gender is female because for the first 6 weeks after conception, male fetuses have female genitalia. Did he really say that? And is that even true? That's weird. Jim says, technically there's only male and female. That's not even scientifically true. There are people with a combination of genitalia. Some people have ovaries, but testicles. I mean, there's all kinds of different people within sex that don't neatly fall into a person with a penis, a person with a vagina, male, female. Sam, do you think Trump will ever invoke the Aliens Enemy Act? I think he's going to go full fascist on immigration, so I wouldn't put anything past him on immigration. Tim says, people confuse gender with sex. Yes, and the Republican Party and people who are right-wing pundits purposefully muddy the waters between gender and sex to confuse people, in my opinion. Biological sex is bimodal. What does bimodal mean? Bimodal. Having or involving two modes in particular of a static distribution. Two modes. What does that mean exactly? I don't really know what this means. Right, there are two overall genres, modes, right? But people can fall in a spectrum of that, right? That's my understanding. Oh, Trump said that gender is defined at conception. So right, if you take it to science, it's only female. I get what you're saying. A problem is gender is synonymous with sex in one common usage. Makes for fertile ground for purposeful confusion of the public by anyone who wishes to do that. Good point. The Keggy says, Democrats, stop purity politics. We lost Joe Rogan and a bunch of others like J.K. Rowling who were chased away from the left just because of issues you're now discussing. I agree, generally speaking, that this is not an issue that is affecting a lot of Americans. I don't necessarily think that you should, like, not talk about it or not try to find the truth because it pisses off some people. I don't know. There are 2 chromosomes, X or Y. Almost all people have an X. About half have a Y. There are only 2 genders, Sam. It's called biology. Let me look up the definition of gender. To me, gender is how you express your sex. Gender, the male sex or the female sex, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones, or a range of other identities that did not correspond to the established ideas of male and female. So then that would correspond with what I was saying, that it's about not necessarily the biological nature of sex, but the expression, both socially and culturally, which can be a range of identities. So there aren't 2 genders. Just based on that definition. Sex, I'm willing to be more concrete on, right? Like, I understand there are XY chromosomes. I understand it's bimodal and there's a spectrum, but I understand that. But I'm talking about gender mostly. And I would also say that the right is way more hyper-focused on purity politics like this kind of shit than the left is. I mean, people are always up in arms like the left is too woke, they're too concerned about cultural issues. It's like the right is way more concerned about stuff like this. Trump enacted, literally, I can show you right here. He took his time the first day in office to make an executive order about gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological. I mean, if this is an obsession, then I don't know what is. Right? Dems are getting closer to losing California too. Don't surprise if it falls. If that falls in 2028, it's all over for the Dems. I don't disagree that the Dems have a lot of work to do. I don't disagree with that at all. I've never said that they don't. But I'm not going to sit here and just be like, yeah, let's not talk about it because Joe Rogan and J.K. Rowling are mad and people get upset about it. I mean, like, again, I'm not going to harp on it. Maybe I'm harping on it now, but generally speaking, I don't really ever talk about this, right? Kamala Harris didn't even mention trans people during her campaign, but Trump made it sound like that's what her campaign was all about. I totally agree with you, in your face, New Yorker. It just seems like everybody's blaming the Democrats for all these culture war shit. And it's like, there's certainly blame to be had in the Democratic Party about the culture war shit, but the right is just as bad, if not worse. What do Dems do to make sure they don't continue to lose? I think they have to focus on very concrete issues such as things surrounding the minimum wage, unions. They have to be the party of the working class again. They have to. I'm I go back and forth about debates about Bernie, but I do think that probably his agenda is the winning agenda for Democrats moving forward. They have to talk about healthcare. They can't be scared about talking about healthcare anymore. They have to cut directly to the issues that most middle-class Americans face. Affordability, education. I think Kamala in the end went too far right. The KG says, agree, Sam. Bread and butter issues of populism. Yes, that's, I guess, what I'm getting at. Dems cannot nominate Newsom. He just doesn't come off as middle and working class. I kind of agree, and I don't know. I've never really been a huge fan of Newsom, but I don't think he's the way forward. Then again, like, you know, so many people speculate about who is the way forward. It's like, does that do any good to sit here and be like, this person's the way forward, that person's the way forward? At the end of the day, people will run, people will vote, and someone will win, right? That's one thing that upsets me about like people like Jank and Hassan as they sit here and be like, hey, it should have been Bernie. It should have been Bernie. It's like, okay, maybe so, but he didn't win the election. More people voted for his opponents. I think it's all good and well to sit there and say that, but it's kind of a moot point. We had an election. He didn't win. I mean, I think the better point is like, hey, the Democratic Party needs to change their messaging, their perspective. I think they say that too, but they get so caught up in this. It should have been Bernie. It should have been Bernie. It should have been. Yeah, but it wasn't. So like, what's the next step? You know? Comic Fans really doesn't think California will ever be blue. I mean, red. Right, people. Mark Cuban, Gresham. I mean, I kind of find this whole process of like throwing out names, you know, especially 4 years ahead of time, kind of useless. I don't know it's dramatic. It fits with the narrative, right? Of like, who's next? Who's the hero, right? It fits with like the idea of like how we process stories, and you know what I mean? But like when you get to the root of it, I don't know if this process of just throwing out names really helps anybody or really matters anyways. You know, you can throw out 20 billion names. None of them might win. You know, people keep doing it. Andy Bashir, you know, okay, maybe. Can we get more gaming streams? Yeah, I need to get back on my gaming stream stuff. But my dog's scratching at my door. Hey, sorry, I'm still streaming. Sorry, I'll come out in a second. Sorry. I don't know. So and again, it's part of it's part of what I'm doing here. Like, I'm engaging with people, and people want to know, like, what about this person? What about that person? But I don't find it that useful. Did you hear what Trump said yesterday about how he would withhold Afghanistan funding until they gave back our equipment? Let me check. Let me fact check that. Trump, Afghanistan. So it seems more about refugees, not necessarily about funding. President Trump's executive order to suspend U.S. refugee program. Oh no, this is about his asylum ban. I don't see anything about funding. Oh, here it is. Voice of America. But that's not run by Trump. Is this still a good source of information? President-elect Donald Trump says the future financial assistance to Afghanistan will be contingent upon the return of U.S. military equipment by the Taliban leaders. Okay. Is this I don't have a moral stance on this really, I guess, other than probably should help the people of Afghanistan since we fucked them for so long. I mean, if he wants our equipment back, it's a good way to get it, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other about that. Jon Stewart is the populist we need. Maybe. When has there ever been LGBT ideology in schools until recently? Men can't be women. I'm a Democrat, but we need to return to 90s social policy. I don't want to keep talking. I hear what you're saying. I don't know. I don't think there's an issue having LGBT ideology in schools. LGBT people exist. Like all other people, their ideology should be as valid as anybody else's. I think it's also way overblown, this idea that LGBT ideology has infiltrated our schools. I think that is a exaggeration. Earthsky says the Democratic Party has to stand up to Israel and AIPAC if they want to win the White House again. Most young Americans don't agree with Israelis' treatment of Palestinians, period. I don't necessarily disagree with that. In Your Face, Near Chris says it's not an ideology. Sometimes people are trans, gay, etc. That's it. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, bro, these people exist. They're gonna exist in schools because they exist. I don't know. The real question is, societally speaking, just because you have a Y chromosome, should that mean you don't get access to protected spaces meant for people with only X chromosomes? I don't really understand that. Dems need to stop capitulating to the Republicans. The GOP has no interest in bipartisanship, and the Democrats are in control. I don't see why it should be any different. I kind of agree with that. Like, I don't think the reason they lost, again, someone pointed out earlier, I don't think Kamala even mentioned trans people in her. So like this idea that like all these woke issues sunk the Dems, it's like, I don't think that's backed up by fact. In Your Face, New York, I'm not doing any call-ins today, but I appreciate your perspective. The LGBT agenda helped Trump win. Again, I don't think that's actually backed up by fact. Again, I think if anything, you could say that Kamala went to the right in that election and was not focused on quote-unquote woke issues. Same, you should do a pre-show instead of a post-show. I have work before the show. I can't do a pre-show. Miss Richie Blackmore says, love your show. What are the issues you agree and disagree with on your dad? I think probably the biggest, like, I think we probably agree for the most part on most ideological policy things. I think he just, the thing we butt heads on probably the most is I think he's just like, he's so hyper-focused, like a pit bull on Trump. And sometimes he just gets this like hyper obsession on Trump, and we butt heads because I'm like, dude, you need to chill with that shit. And he says, no, I'm a presidential historian. This is my focus. This is what I need to be talking about. I don't disagree with that necessarily, but we butt heads on that often. I wish we would sort of, obviously not today, obviously on the inauguration of Trump, and obviously he won. So moving forward, that changes things. But especially before he won, we butted heads a lot about me just being like, dude, we need to chill on the Trump pit bull nature that you have. But I don't think that's ever going to change. I think he's set in his ways. And I think, again, I don't necessarily disagree with him, like rightfully so. It's not how I do approach things. I don't know. At this point, how can you not be focused on Trump? If I could ignore the president, then I would. No, I agree. And again, I said transitioning from his win to now, or the election to now, his win, things have changed, and I understand that makes things a lot different. But I'm just trying to answer the question. I mean, policy-wise and ideologically, I think we're pretty similar. We believe in most sort of progressive policy, I would say. he's a pretty big Bernie hater. I'm a pretty big Bernie fan. But then again, I think that my dad agrees with most of Bernie's policies. For whatever reason, I think because of 2016, he just has sort of put up a wall and a grudge against Bernie. Do you ever feel your dad is too doomer about some things? No, I think he does a good job of actually balancing that. I think he has to, again, he's a political historian. He's a presidential historian. He has to critique and he has to say what's on his mind. He can't sugarcoat it. But I think he does a good job of, at times, trying to purposefully be positive. I think our boomer dads are very set in their ways. Mine is around the same age as Allan. He's very set in his ways. Yeah, that's another thing, right? I agree with that. My dad is very set in his ways. What are your thoughts on Vivek leaving Dodge? I find it so sweet. I find it so funny and validating. I don't know. I just do not like Vivek, and the fact that he's already scurrying from Dodge is like, bye bye, toodaloo, miss ya. Not, you know. Both of you guys do a great job of keeping things entertaining. I watch almost every show. Well, thank you, Jeff, for watching every show. That's what we try to do, man. We try to keep it entertaining for the people out there. If any, what's a policy on the right that you agree with, one that you strongly disagree with? The policy idea on the right that I agree with or strongly disagree with? Generally speaking, I strongly disagree with trickle-down economics and all the policies surrounding that. I think it's been proven not to work. Something on the right, a policy on the right that I do agree with. That's hard. You'd have to give me some. It's like hard for me to pluck them out of thin air. Like I can't. I'm just like blanking right now. You'd have to like give me some, and then I'd have to like figure out which ones I agree with and don't. Vivek is running for Ohio governor. I know, and I hope he loses. And I hope he has no political power ever again. Did you see the other comments that Trump made in the same speech you referenced? He said, "It's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president." No, I did not see that. I'll give you one: foreign policy when it comes to Iran. So that's like right-wing foreign policy when it comes to Iran. I don't know. I agreed with Obama's Iran deal. So I don't know if that's one that I agree with. Being tough on crime is an idea of the right. I definitely don't agree with that. Again, it's a policy that has been enacted for now decades and has been proven not to work. So I don't agree with that. Jeff says, I hope Vivek doesn't win the primary. I hope not either. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Do Republicans really have any policy these days? I mean, to some extent, right? I mean, we saw all these executive orders, and I don't think I agree with any of them. On tariffs, I don't agree with them. On gender inequality, I don't agree with them. On energy and the environment, I don't agree with them. On immigration on the border, I don't agree with them. With the federal workforce, I don't agree with them, right? So, yeah, it's hard for me to find something on the right that I agree with. Not that I'm not open to, right? I'm not like closed off to agreeing with it, but so far I haven't seen anything from this Trump administration that I agree with. Like, I don't know if any of these I feel strongly about in the affirmative, any of these executive actions. I don't think I mean, I don't really know enough about tariffs and trade to comment on it. My dad is obviously pretty against them, but I guess we'll see. That's the nicest thing I could say about the tariff and trade stuff is like, we'll see. I don't agree with any of this. I don't agree with any of this. Don't agree with any of this. There you have it. Brendan says, despite these last few days, I still stand by the fact that we will survive another Trump term, but we must not give up on fighting. I totally agree with you. Hai Dong says, Trump will endorse Vivek and he will win the nomination as a result. The election since Ohio is red. We'll see who else runs. There might be other MAGA candidates who run, and it might not just be Vivek. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I guess if he wins the nomination, it'll be really hard to beat him. But you never know. Red states often elect blue governors and vice versa. What about the Second Amendment? Do I agree with the Second Amendment? I agree with the Second Amendment in theory, but I don't in certain aspects of it. But I don't agree with the right-wing interpretation of the Second Amendment. Mehdi says, I think Trump understands the Iranian regime more than Dems do. That might be true, especially like modern or like current Democratic leadership. Again, I supported the Iran deal, and I still think it was a good thing. That's a long time ago. Obama is no longer, in any sort of real political position. So maybe in this current outlook of 2025, that's true. But it's hard for me to say because I'm not well read enough on the issue, to be honest. What would happen if Trump doesn't want to leave the presidency? I have no idea. Philip H. says they won't elect an Indian in Ohio. I hate to say I kind of agree with you. Let's see. Let's see what the Ohio governors look like. Has there ever been... I'm sure there's got to be a non-white governor of Ohio. Actually, I'm not really sure. Let's see. Okay. White, 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 and certainly before 1870 there was no people of color as yeah. So that is a fair point. I mean, if we're just looking at history and just talking about the statistics of it, there has never been a person of color as the Ohio governor. So yeah, that doesn't bode well for Vivek. They elected a Dem in 2007. Very different time in America, for sure. And Kasich was pretty moderate. I don't think Vivek is going to win. I really don't. Yeah, I think don't be surprised if other MAGA candidates run in Ohio and Trump kind of is like, whoever wins. He does this thing often in primaries where he kind of, especially when there's multiple candidates that are MAGA or whatever, he's not sure who's going to win. He doesn't really endorse until there's like a solid red candidate. And even so, if they're not, full MAGA, he doesn't. But I'm saying like, if other MAGA candidates join the race in Ohio, I can see Trump kind of just being like, ooh, I don't know, Vivek, this guy, not being specific about who he endorses, and that could really hurt Vivek in the end. And yeah, him being Indian definitely hurts him, I think. Unfortunately, but it does. Do you think a Dem will win the Senate in Ohio in 2026? It all depends on these next 2 years, in my opinion. It all depends on what happens to America in these next 2 years based off of Trump policies. California has had white governors only. Is that true? I don't not believe you. I'm just curious. List of Cali Yeah, it looks to be true. California's never even have a woman governor, have they? Interesting. Wow, California's only had white men governors. That's interesting. That doesn't mean anything for Ohio, but that's an interesting fact. T-Girl says, "Oh, Sam, I wanted to tell you that I saw the movie Flow on your suggestion, and I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you liked it." 2028 will be Vance winning the primary and choosing Vivek as his VP. I think that's certainly possible. Again, because VP is an appointed position. I mean, I understand people vote for it in the general, but really they're voting for Vance, right? Like Vance can sort of overlay his whiteness on top of the Indian Vivek, and he doesn't have that shield in the Ohio governor's race. Can a Democrat win Florida's governor's race in 2026? Anything is possible. California had an Armenian governor. This guy, George. But Armenians are still white. I think it's really hard to argue that Armenians are people of color. I mean, they're technically Caucasian. Ohio has a fairly decent chance at going back to being at least a swing state, considering it's only becoming red fairly recently. Yeah, but it's been pretty consistently red. I don't know. Vaylander, yo, Sam, hope you're well, homie. I hope you're well, Vaylander. You're the man. Sam, we can't deny the fact that Trump won overwhelmingly. He got 40%, 50% in New York, New Jersey, the whole blue state. I don't think he won overwhelmingly. I mean, what's the final tally? 2024 election results. He certainly won the Electoral College overwhelmingly, but I mean, as we all know, that's just literally just made up numbers. He won by 2 million votes, approximately, a little over 2 million votes. He didn't even win 50% of the vote. He was a little over a percentage above. I mean, that's not to me. To me, this shows that is not an overwhelming victory. This is not an overwhelming victory. This is an overwhelming victory. But again, 6, 7, these are made up numbers. And the redness in Texas doesn't account for all the blue votes, vice versa. This is the most accurate in my mind, in terms of landslide victories. That doesn't look like a landslide victory to me. All right, I think with that, I gotta take my dog for a walk. I still haven't taken my dog for a walk. It's great to be back on the post show. I am extremely happy that you're all still tuning into the post show. Thank you all for watching Lichtman Live. I appreciate every single one of you. I mean it. Good night.